So sure, Fang is a warrior, but he's completely different than any of his class brethren. He's Draconic, which offers certain advantages, but it's also extremely difficult to hit Rupture with him, which really hampers his effectiveness in Commoner. Pair that with the fact that his weapons are slightly below rate, but pretty darn good if you play the right React, and well, we've got a completely different hero. So today, let's go into my current Draconic Fang Commoner list, and I'll show you why, even though I had to unfortunately abandon Rupture, he can still be a legitimate threat. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to the channel, and thank you so much for tuning in today midweek for, that's right, another Dice Commando video. Midweek, every week, we're talking Commoner. I shouldn't say every week. I skip a week every now and then, but most weeks we are talking Commoner. And this week we are coming out of the Hunted release, going through all the heroes. And I wanted to start with Fang because the journey here has been interesting and I want to tell you about it. So to that effect, fair warning, if you're a Commoner person and all you come for is a list, and I know that that's like 80% of you because I know how to read data, list is below. Cheers. Thanks for coming. Have a good one. For the rest of you, please leave a comment below because I get an absurdly low amount of comments compared to many of my peers here. And I just don't understand why that is, but it is what it is, and I accept my fate. And speaking of accepting their fate, Mr. Fang here. So I was pretty positive coming into brewing Fang that I was going to end up on one Obsidian and one Quicksilver Dagger. And I was pretty sure that I was going to have Lava Burst in my list. We knew we were going to have Blaze Headlong in the list, and it's in the list, don't worry. Like, it's there. That one's a Windmill Slam. But I was pretty sure we were going to have Lava Burst. And both of those are, well, I said three things. Two of those are false. We're not on Quicksilver Dagger, we're on two Obsidians, and we're not playing Rupture. And I think the one kind of gave way at the same time, if we're being honest. But once we got into really looking at what Fang does, it just kind of made sense that you wanted to play two Draconics. And one of the cards that kind of explains how we got here, I know it's so stupid and simple because you could just play in the swing, but Blistering Blade is really how I got here. So this is a 0 Draconic attack reaction 2. Target dagger attack gets +2. If you control 2 or more, it gets +3. Well, Andrew, that's a strictly, except for the fact that it's Draconic, it's a strictly worse from two aspects in the swing. Why not this over in the swing? And it's a completely fair question. The issue we really get to is the Draconic part, right? For the potential go again, which opened up a couple other doors. But the problem I had from a Rupture, and you'd be like, well, then that makes sense for Rupture. But it really doesn't, because you're really, like, as a warrior, you're weapon, something. So your only play to actually get to 4 was really like a Blaze Headlong or a Scar for a Scar or something like that, right? But counting on Scar for a Scar is, I mean, sure, you can kind of set it up, but sometimes it doesn't work, and it only blocks for 2 in that case. And I suppose you can end the chain with it, to be fair. But I'm just saying, if you're building yourself around the Rupture, really your only true lever to pull, at least as I see it right now, is Blaze Headlong. So I did want to go ahead and lead into the Draconic thing. And, you know, we've got Blistering Blade in the list, and I think it makes sense. So let me go ahead and pull up the list where we are right now. So I am using 2, because it has no great headpiece, right? If you look at like OG Kassai, she's got her own head. Well, any Kassai has their headpiece. The warrior does not have a chest of note in Commoner that's like worth playing. So Blade Beckoner, I can't say that word. Blade Beckoner, we're running on both the head and the chest because this card is crazy good. Running Gallantry Gold and then running Refraction Bolters. Mostly Refraction Bolters just because of the goes, which, to be fair, I don't think we actually need. So there's a potential argument for running Blade Beckoner boots. But I think you do want to have this on board just in case you can't get on the second one and they just take the one. and you want to go into either a 1/6 or a 0/4. So moving into the deck, yes, like I mentioned, Blaze Headlong, Windmill Slam, and alphabetically first. Blistering Blades in there. Now we go into Cut Deep. So a couple of folks in our commoner chats were really excited about this card. Like, oh my god, this card's crazy. Yeah, but if you compare a dagger on the whole to like a Cintauri Saber, right? Cintauri Saber is 1 for 2 with upside. Daggers are 1 for 1 with upside, but you get the point. Cut Deep is just a sharpened steel that is restricted to daggers, and that makes them on rate. So Cut Deep, yes, is a 0/4, and if you do a Draconic thing, then that's great. But Cut Deep itself, you really just need to think as a sharpened steel in my head, from like a pure value standpoint. However, because of the potential with why we're playing it over sharpened steel, I am also playing the blue version of that because it blocks 3, and the +2 is actually pretty good on that if you're getting it for your dagger. Okay. Now we're into Dynastic Devotion. So this one generally is going to be a 1/3 for you, right? Because, I mean, sure, you can make it come in for 0, but the vast majority of the time you actually need it on the first one. So it's basically a Stroke of Foresight or something like that, right? And that's, you get it, right? It's just your standard 1/3 puncture or whatever. We are on Fate and Sync here because it's commoner and they're good cards. I am playing for the Drakai here. Now, this leads me into the discussion about marks with Fang. And this is kind of, I think, Fang's problem. So his ability is when you hit a marked hero, create a fealty token. If you control 3 or more fealties, you swing free. It's just not going to happen. Like, I basically just abandoned that within like build 4 or 5 of this, and I just let it go. So really what you're playing him for is blank text box with maybe the ability to make things Draconic, right? But we're leaning pretty heavily into Draconic because I didn't want to count on that. And like, we don't have a lot of ways to make marked, so it actually is a little liberating from a certain point of view, okay? But for the Drakai, it's a better Wounded Blow, so we're playing it. We're also playing Freewheeling Renegades. You all know I love this card. I think it worked great. This is the only popper we have for him, and it's main board because, again, you could, in theory, dagger free react, come with Freewheeling Alpha Blue. So I think it makes sense. And this card, when you, again, I play it in Kassai. That shouldn't be a secret to many of you at this point. It's a really good card because they just, by the time you get to third link, which they're often not expecting with a warrior, or I should say with a 2-swing warrior, right? I mean, I guess Dorinthea could in theory do it, not really in commoner, but she could. It would not be optimal. But you get my point. Once you get here, they've already blocked out what they wanted to block out. So now they're facing either 6 or give you a card they didn't want to give you. It's pretty good, right? I think this card works really well. We do have Hunt for a Killer. Hunt for a Killer is, again, above rate. It's a 1 for 4, and when hits hero, mark them, and it blocks 3. So Hunt a Killer, good stuff. Imperial Instinct, so costs 1 less to play for each Draconically control. It costs 1, so it's effectively a 0/2. This is always a 0/2, but it only blocks 2, right? That's his issue. You got to go aggressive. We do have Incision. Incision is a great card. Just straight up, target dagger gets +3. This is one that you're hoping you have a fealty for to use, but if you don't, I would have to say maybe 25 to 33% of the time, I'm doing single swing with Fang. Pumping by 4 with a 3 in hand, paying 1 to it, maybe 2, maybe you pitch a blue to it and you do something with a 1. Use resources ineffectively, but you're still coming in for like 9 or something like that on a single swing. With reacts to boot. Because they've got to worry about that. It's pretty cool, right? Decision's pretty good. We're also playing 4 copies of Knife Through Blooder. So your next dagger gets 4 or 2, because we're playing red-blue, 1/4. Whenever you attack a marked hero, it gets go again. So not probably going to have that happen very often, but this one also blocks 3, and it's a 1/4, much in the same vein as Hunt a Killer. Searing Gaze, this card's actually legit, right? Just straight up 0, target dagger gets 2, and remember, all of your daggers are, we have to be careful we don't double count, right? Because we say, oh, well, the dagger's only 1, but it gets +1. And then we say, oh, well, all the reacts are 0, 2, but they get +1. So we actually double count when we're considering the value. And I think that's, you know, a little bit of copium, right? I think we need to be realistic about that the dagger's only gaining +1 when we do both the things. I mean, you only have to do one thing, but it's both of the cards gain effective. Well, only one of them gains +1, but you have to do 2 things. You have to swing with the dagger and play the dagger. So it is what it is, right? But let's just be clear. This is not a 0 for 4. It's a 0 for 3. You do get go again, but again, that's built into playing a sub-right weapon. So let's just be honest with ourselves. Now, Sisters of Fire play only if you control 2 or more Draconic chain links. Target dagger gets +3. So effectively, right, Blistering Blade. Which is not entirely true because there are, in theory, other ways, but not how we're playing it. So this is a second swing. Searing Pain, do love this one. Just a straight 1/3. But if you go 2 or more, you get to mark them. Okay. And then I'm playing straight up in the swing on blue because I do believe that from a blue standpoint, blue in the swing is better than Blistering Blade because it blocks more. And they effectively do the same thing. The Draconic part is actually important, though, on Blistering Blade, just because it gives you an extra +1. That's the point, right? But from in the swing, you know, you use it in a pinch, you get +1. But it's mainly there for being a blue, whereas the other one doesn't get you the same value. So that's why we're there. Moving into the inventory, we're on yellow FFS, Arcane Polarity, 3 AB. I think you're going to have a rough time versus Icelander, but that's what you're equipped with. So, you know, the rest of the story, I think, pretty much tells itself. With 2 Obsidian Fire Veins, it doesn't really matter what order you do them in, right? I mean, obviously with Quicksilver, if you were doing that, you do Fire Vein and then Quicksilver and something out. But like I said, as I really started to develop this, there was really no functional reason to play Quicksilver over, because with all of with the exception of freewheeling, which is advantageous in a popper, the follow-up attacks we have are 0/4. So it doesn't matter, right? You do that most of the time. I mean, because think about it, right? If you're ending with your Quicksilver Dagger, which is coming in for 1 and go again, or if I have my Obsidian Fire Vein with no react, it's still also coming in for 1, and it doesn't matter that I lose my go again because I have nothing else to do. So that's really where that's ultimately why I landed there. So I think this is the right play, at least for what we have in the card pool for now, and with the way Commoner works, it's probably going to be that way for a while. So anyway, have fun with it, iterate on it, let me know what you think, and go Commando.